Why has there been an alarming increase in mass shootings in recent times? It's a question that sends a chill down the spine, yet it's one we find ourselves asking more often than we'd like. Across the United States, tales of terror have been unfolding at an unsettling rate. From the heart-wrenching events in Atlanta, to the shocking scenes in Boulder, from the tragic incidents in Indianapolis, to the dreadful occurrences in San Jose, the narrative seems terrifyingly similar, and it's happening all too often. When we delve into the data, the story becomes even more disturbing. Between the years of 2019 and 2020, we witnessed a significant surge in gun homicides and non-suicide related shootings. It's a trend that's as startling as it is saddening, with the numbers painting a picture of a nation in crisis. This escalating violence begs the question, why are mass shootings on the rise? What are the factors driving this surge in gun violence? As we delve deeper into the subject, a grim picture starts to emerge. The surge in gun violence is not a random occurrence, but a result of a combination of various factors. Let's take a closer look at these contributing elements. Firstly, there's been an alarming surge in gun sales. More guns in circulation means more opportunities for these weapons to fall into the wrong hands. And with private sellers not required to conduct background checks, the potential for disaster is clear. But the surge in gun sales is just one piece of the puzzle. A second factor is the increased risk factors such as domestic violence and economic instability, both of which have been exacerbated by the ongoing pandemic. The stress and strain of these difficult times can push individuals to the brink, and when a firearm is readily available, the consequences can be deadly. Lastly, we cannot ignore the role of armed intimidation by far-right extremists. The rise of this disturbing trend has not only fueled fear and division, but has also contributed significantly to the increase in gun violence. These extremists, emboldened and armed, pose a serious threat to the safety and security of our communities. These factors, taken together, create a dangerous mix. The surge in gun sales, the increased risk factors brought on by the pandemic, and the rise of armed far-right extremists have all contributed to the surge in gun violence. These elements have created a perfect storm that has led to an unprecedented increase in mass shootings. As we grapple with this reality, it's crucial that we work towards understanding these factors and finding solutions that address each one. Only then can we hope to stem the tide of this violence and create a safer future for all. Did you know that only federally licensed gun dealers are required to conduct background checks? This might come as a surprise to many, but it's a reality that has been contributing to the proliferation of gun violence in the United States. You see, there's a loophole in the system that allows private sellers to bypass this crucial step. This means that anyone, regardless of their criminal record or mental health status, could potentially acquire a firearm through private sale without anyone batting an eye. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like the most secure system, does it? This loophole has allowed guns to flow freely across state lines, exacerbating the issue of gun violence nationwide. We're talking about an unchecked torrent of weapons moving from one state to another, often landing in the hands of those who should never have access to them in the first place. But it's not all doom and gloom. Several states have taken matters into their own hands, passing laws that require background checks on all handgun sales, not just those conducted by federally licensed dealers. This is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. These state-level laws can only do so much when guns purchased in one state can easily be transported to another. This is why a nationwide solution is crucial. We need comprehensive, federal laws that close this private sale loophole once and for all. Laws that ensure every gun sale, no matter where it takes place or who it's between, involves a thorough background check. And let's be clear, this isn't about infringing on anyone's rights. This is about ensuring the safety of all citizens, about protecting lives and preventing tragedies before they happen. It's about creating a system that works for everyone, not just those who wish to purchase firearms. A nationwide solution is imperative to prevent this unchecked flow of guns across state lines. It's time to close the loophole, to ensure that every gun sale involves a background check, to make safety and security the priority. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? What has been done so far to combat the issue of gun violence? The United States House of Representatives has made strides to address this epidemic. They've passed safety bills that expand background checks for gun purchases. This is significant because currently, only federally licensed gun dealers are mandated to conduct these checks. This leaves a loophole for private sellers, a gap that these new bills aim to close. But the fight doesn't stop in the House. It's now up to the Senate to take action. The battle for gun control is a difficult one, but it's not a new fight. Let's take a look back. In the past, there have been several landmark legislations. The Mailing of Firearms Act in 1927, followed by the National Firearms Act in 1934, and the Federal Firearms Act of 1938. Then came the Gun Control Act of 1968, each one an attempt to curb the misuse of firearms. But with each legislation, there were flaws. Take, for instance, the federal ban on assault weapons in 1994. It was a step in the right direction, but it had loopholes and, unfortunately, expired in 2004. More recently, we've seen the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act in 2022. This, along with several states implementing tougher measures, shows that progress is being made. But the gun lobby and manufacturing industry still wield significant influence, adding to the complexity of this issue. Despite the strides made, the reality remains that there is still much work to be done. Over the past 25 years, over 800,000 Americans have been shot and killed due to inaction on gun safety legislation. The fight isn't just in the hands of our lawmakers. It's a societal issue that requires the unyielding pressure from us, the public, on our elected officials. While steps have been taken, the fight for comprehensive gun control is far from over. Resistance to change has always been a roadblock in the path to progress. And in the realm of gun control, this resistance has often come from lawmakers themselves. Despite the stark rise in mass shootings and the clamor for common-sense gun control measures, there's been a strong pushback, a resistance to the idea that stricter laws can help curb this violence. Casting our minds back to the year 2004, we find an example of this resistance in the expiration of the federal assault weapons ban. This legislation, once a beacon of hope for those advocating for tighter gun control, was allowed to lapse, leaving a void that's yet to be adequately filled. The ban, which prohibited the manufacture for civilian use of certain semi-automatic firearms, so-called assault weapons, was a step in the right direction. But this step was taken back when the ban expired and was not renewed. But even when the laws do pass, they're often riddled with loopholes that undermine their effectiveness. Take, for instance, the 1994 federal ban on assault weapons. While it was hailed as a victory for gun control advocates, it was far from perfect. The law was rife with loopholes that allowed manufacturers to modify their weapons slightly, renaming them, and continuing to sell these deadly firearms to civilians. The resistance to change is not just in the refusal to pass new laws, but also in the failure to enforce the ones that exist. It's in the loopholes that allow dangerous weapons to slip through the cracks. It's in the stubborn insistence that more guns, not fewer, is the answer to this crisis. And while the debate rages on, lives continue to be lost. Resistance and loopholes have stymied the progress of effective gun control measures. But this does not mean that the fight for change is a lost cause. Rather, it means that the fight must be more determined, more relentless, and more united than ever before. Where do we go from here? A question that looms over us as we navigate the turbulent seas of gun violence. It's a question that prompts us to look forward and find solutions. In recent times, we've seen a glimmer of hope with legislation such as the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act of 2022. This act is a step in the right direction, a testament to how unity can lead to positive change. But it's only the beginning of a long journey. Moreover, we see some states taking matters into their own hands, implementing tougher measures that go beyond federal requirements. It's a promising sign showing that change is possible, that we can create safer communities for all. However, these are just pieces of a larger puzzle. A puzzle that requires us to face the intimidating might of the gun lobby and manufacturing industry. A puzzle that demands unyielding political pressure on our elected officials. We need to hold them accountable to ensure they prioritize common-sense gun safety laws. We need to remind them that they serve us, the people, and our safety should be their paramount concern. In the face of adversity, we must remember the power of our collective voice. Just as the tide can shape the shoreline, our relentless pressure can shape the landscape of gun control. We've done it before with acts like the National Firearms Act in 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968. We can do it again. We stand at a crossroads. One path leads to more of the same, a grim cycle of violence and grief. The other path, though challenging and fraught with obstacles, leads to a safer future. It's a path paved with stricter gun control measures and the relentless pursuit of change. The path forward is clear. We need stricter gun control measures and unyielding pressure on our elected officials to enact them. So, what can you do to help? I hear you ask. Well, there are numerous ways you can contribute to the change we so desperately need. Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference. One of the most direct ways you can support gun control measures is by voting. Make sure to cast your ballot for leaders who prioritize the safety of their constituents over partisan politics. Research your candidates, identify their stance on gun control, and support those who are committed to implementing common-sense gun safety laws. But your involvement shouldn't stop at the voting booth. Participate in local advocacy groups that are working towards gun control. These groups often organize rallies, petitions, and awareness campaigns that can significantly influence public opinion and legislative action. By joining these groups, you can ensure your voice is heard and contributes to a louder collective call for change. Writing letters to your elected officials is another effective way to advocate for gun control. Express your concerns about the current state of gun violence in your community and urge them to support stricter gun laws. Remember, these officials are elected to represent you. It's their job to listen to your concerns and act on them. Support organizations that are working towards gun control. These organizations are often at the forefront of research, education, and legislative action. Your donations can help fund these critical efforts and bring us one step closer to a future free from gun violence. And finally, use your voice. Talk to your friends, family, and anyone willing to listen about the importance of gun control. Discuss the facts, debunk the myths, and share your personal reasons for supporting gun control. Each conversation you have may inspire others to join the cause and create a ripple effect of change. Remember, we're all in this together. We all have a role to play in creating safer communities free from the fear of gun violence. Your voice matters. Use it to demand safer communities free from the fear of gun violence.